I'm a big believer in, learning Mussar by doing Mussar. Hi, Joanne, welcome. And we always begin with a short meditation to become grounded. So if you're not a meditator, don't worry, this is only going to take like 2 minutes, so it'll be okay. So please relax and close your eyes. And take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And again, inhale through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And as you go at your own pace of inhaling through the nose and holding, and exhaling through the mouth and holding. If thoughts should come into your head, just observe them and let them go. Like watching a car drive past on the road. Now is not the time for solving problems. Right now, all you need to do is inhale through the nose and hold, and exhale through the mouth and hold. And on your next inhale, say to yourself, Shema. And on the exhale, listen. Shema, listen. In Shema, we're listening deeply, without judgment, without offering advice. In Shema, we are listening with an open heart. Shema, listen. And when you're ready, you may open your eyes. Well, like Elijah, a few more people appeared during the meditation. So hello to Frank and Linda and Shelley and Joanne. So here we are, as I say, beginning our 5th round of Mussar. So here's a little history of our group. We started on March 19th, 2020, just when the world shut down. We wanted to come together, and it was such a powerful experience that we continued meeting. And we've had a bit of an evolution. We first did a 1 week per soul trait, then we did 2 weeks per soul trait. Then we did a curriculum from the Institute for Jewish Spirituality called Tikkun Midot, which was written by Rabbi David Jaffe. And then we went back to the spiritual practice of good action. And now we're beginning our 5th cycle, where once again, it's going to remain a drop-in format. And we're going to be doing 2 weeks for soul trait. And sometimes I'm going to be drawing on IJS materials. Sometimes I will be drawing only from the book, but overall, we'll be following the order of soul traits in the spiritual practice of good actions. Yeah, so that's the overview. For those of you who may be new to Mussar or a continuing beginner like myself, Mussar can be thought of as it's a practice. It's something we do every day. And we focus on one of these different soul traits or character traits at a time. And as I said earlier, I think someone is not on mute. Mussar can be thought of as it's a practice. It's something we do every day. What in the world is going on? One of these different soul traits or character traits. That is okay. That was really weird. I don't know if other people could hear that, but the streaming version was kind of coming through and I was hearing my own voice and then started yelling at someone to go on mute. So what's all that about? Okay, so let's get back to the action here. So a Mussar practice, we look at one trade at a time, and then there's kind of a daily cycle where we begin with a mantra. It's a repetition phrase or recitation phrase to frame the day. And then you pick one small activity that can help you move towards balance, something to focus on. When we're on this journey of personal transformation, we're not trying to boil the ocean. We don't want to correct or change everything all at once. We pick just kind of one thing and we focus on that. And small change is lasting change. And then there's an opportunity to journal, to write down where was your trait tested during the day, where did you kind of have choices, and however you reacted, whether it was something you were happy about or something you wish you'd done a little bit better, just capture it in a journal. Now, I'll just let you know that there are a lot of people who don't journal in Mussar. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but the times when I do, it definitely enriches the practice. So while it's something I invite and I recommend, I don't want anyone to feel like blocked or embarrassed, if that's not something that you're doing. Okay, so as we jump into humility, there's this concept about taking up space. And so to kind of open our conversation, I'd love to hear from a few people. Just in general, do you think you tend to take up too much space or too little? What is your personal tendency? Yeah, Joanne. You could remember to unmute, please.
I'm not sure where I am right now. Like when we started, I knew that I wasn't taking up enough space.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, especially in my apartment that my son was sharing with me and who tended to hog the space.
Mm.
And then I guess the other place was in regards to the synagogue, and I kind of felt like I gradually took up more space than I started with.
Mm.
And I also felt like, because other people are even more reticent than I am to say something, to do something, that I felt almost compelled to be somebody who would say or do things, or take things upon themselves. And I think it was a good thing, it was a growth experience. And then I became sisterhood president, and maybe it was taking up too much space because I was trying to shut people down sometimes, and then they complained, and I said, oh. So I'm that's the balance I'm looking for.
Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I listen with an open heart. Who else? Would anyone else care to share? Yes, Paul.
Hi, yeah. Yeah, I think that's similar to what Joanne was saying, that it is, for me, it is context specific. So if I'm feeling insecure or not sure of myself in a situation, that I'm likely to be being very hesitant about taking up any space at all. I'll just kind of sit back and not say anything. Whereas if I feel very comfortable, sometimes I can get what I would call garrulous, but others would call like a little bit too much. And so I've learned to try and be aware of how much, if there's a conversation, how much of that conversation am I taking up. If I'm taking up more than half of the time, then I just need to stop and start asking questions and draw somebody else out. I'm with my mother right now out in Southern California. So this has been really interesting in this relationship because I've been coming out seeing her 4 times a year. And I've been learning about how when we have conversations that I need to be very careful about that. So this has been really interesting in this relationship because I've been coming out seeing her 4 times. That's coming through Ricky's, I think. At least
I'm having trouble with my video, with my screen.
Okay. Well, maybe Ricky, if you could, if you stay on mute, then.
Okay.
Then.
This is my first time on this Zoom, believe it or not.
Well, great job. That is.
I got this far.
Yeah, that is, part of humility. It's not about kind of withdrawing. It's about, sometimes it's about stepping outside of your comfort zone. So I want to give you a big thumbs up for kind of stepping out of your comfort zone to join us. So yeah, so there's a little in the lower left corner, there's a little button that says mute. And so if you click that, there you go. Okay, so we'll hear from Karen and Jane, and then we're going to move on. Since we have a bigger group, we won't get to hear from everybody in every section, but we'll try to give everybody an opportunity to contribute at least once. And then for those of you who are new, we're going to go into breakout groups, so everyone will have an opportunity kind of for a private one-on-one conversation on the topic. So Karen.
So as I embark on another year of this study, I try to look for something different. And this time with humility, I looked back on my life to see, where I was from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I realized that it's very relationship dependent. For example, as a parent, when children are young, I took up more of the space. What became difficult for me, what I recognized was as they got older, I needed to take up less of the space. And so I just wanted to throw out that concept that being in the middle is maybe where we want to be. A lot of the time we want to recognize when we're off, but there are times when we need to be, more to one side or to the other end of the spectrum, depending on where we are in the relationship.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. Jane.
2 things. Maybe I misunderstood, but I thought you weren't going to record the part of the sessions where we have personal sharing.
I don't record the breakout rooms.
Oh.
So you can share as much or little as you feel comfortable.
Okay, then I guess I'm finished sharing for now. Thank you.
Okay, sure, no problem. Okay, well let's dive a little bit deeper. See what we got here. So what you see here, these are the what I call the 4 assumptions for a Mussar practice. People can come to Mussar from any level of kind of Jewish education or background. So I created these assumptions to try to put everyone on the same level. And I call them assumptions because for a while I was in product management and I had to do these financial forecasts. And so you'd make an assumption like, well, I'm running a store, and if 100 people come in an hour and on average they spend $10 each, then my store is going to make $1,000 an hour. Now, maybe these assumptions are true, maybe they're not, but if by making them, it gives me an opportunity to move forward and make decisions. So the 4 assumptions are, there's a divine spark in everyone, which is occluded by our baggage. We all have free will, but it's not always accessible. We are driven by the conflict between the evil inclination and the good inclination. And we all share the same soul traits, but have a unique measure of each. Each week, we're going to well, not every week, but many weeks, we're going to look at one of these in a little bit more depth as it relates to the soul trait we're working on. I want to comment on the evil inclination and the good inclination. You can think of this as like, you know, it's not like evil, like murderous evil. It's more kind of like what Freud would call the id and the superego, or it's our kind of emotions and selfish impulses versus kind of our cooperative impulses. But this idea that we all share the same soul traits, that the idea there is that if we're talking about like something like generosity, and you look with someone who's maybe doesn't appear to be very generous, they still have that generosity soul trait. It's just out of balance. Or maybe they don't share very much, or maybe they are sharing too much and they're giving away so much that it's taking away from their own welfare and well-being. We all are kind of on a spectrum for each of these traits, which is what I'm going to show you, I think, in the next slide. Yeah, so this is the spectrum for humility. So maybe someone would care to comment, like, what happens when we have too little humility as opposed to too much humility? And I can't see everyone, so feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
Hey, Greg. So I'm going to say that when you have too little of humility, that's when you have lack of self-worth, and you tend to be very quiet and small. And then when you have too much, you're not listening to the other person's perspective. It's all me. And so, it's to find that balance, and, as we do in our meditation, to listen, to pay attention to others, and also to listen to yourself, and, do that little checklist of, where am I in this situation? Am I feeling, a gut reaction? And if so, I always ask myself, where does that originate from? Because I'm all about evolving myself. And so, yeah, I would like to believe most of the time I tend to be in the middle. I listen, but I have recognized since the last couple of months that I had a little bit of too little. That I was not really truly showing who I was. So that was my take on that.
Great, thank you. And Shelley, maybe you could read for us the kind of mantra at the top of the slide as well.
Okay, soul trait spectrum for humility. No more, am I still on? No
Yep.
more my space, not less than my place.
Great.
Alan Morenis, everyday holiness. I don't have my glasses on.
Well, you did well. Thank you. I put you on the spot there. Usually I ask for volunteers to read.
No problem.
So, right. So, okay. So this relates a little bit to kind of our introductory question, and thank you, Shelley. I thought you described kind of that really well. We can be, we can be really small if we're not feeling good about ourselves, and kind of, hunker in and maybe not take up our right place in the world. But if we get too swelled and we get a big head, we can start taking up, more space. And I was definitely, that's my tendency to be, taking up more space. When I was in the corporate world, I was always the one who had to ask the first question. And I always really defended my ideas, and I knew the right thing to do. And as Shelley said, there was not enough listening going on. There was one time when I was wrong, for example. So, it happens. Now, may I have someone volunteer to unmute and read this paragraph underneath? Because I think this is a really interesting illustration. How this
I'll read.
together. Okay.
Holding oneself back in order to please others or in order not to risk offending others, which is a variation on the same theme, isn't humility. It's taking up less than my space, and that's not a character strength, it's a flaw. Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt.
Great, thank you. All right, I'm going to just pop that into that last quote. I'm going to pop that into the chat. So to everyone, what is Rabbi Barenblatt? What's her point? What's she teaching here? Yeah, Bonnie, did I see your hand? Nope, okay. Yeah, Victoria.
I thought it was very interesting because it seems to me that humility, as she had written it, is not about a lack of courage. That's all to me, that's enough for me to ponder. It's not about having a lack of courage.
Okay, can you, I know that sort of, can you just say a little bit more, like where are you seeing the, I love that, and I think it's a really interesting observation. Could you say a little bit more, like how you see courage connected to this?
Because she said that taking up less space in order to not offend others is actually a lack of character, something like that. So it's not actually necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
So to me, that's very interesting because I'm trying to understand what is humility. It's really about the definition of what humility is. So I'm sorry, I don't have
No, that was great. And I could say more about the definition of humility, but I see a couple other hands here. So I see Karen and Carrie.
Hi, Karen. I just wanted to say that there's a difference between bystanding and upstanding, and I think that this goes right to the point, which is that we can stand by and not say something, or we can engage in the new term of upstanding, which is to take up space when we really feel that it's the right thing to do and our right place to do it, and monitoring how much space we take is the spectrum. But I see this as really relating to bystanding and upstanding.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Carrie.
I was just going to ask you to explain that there is a difference between the Mussar definition of humility and the American definition, which might be helpful for newcomers and all of us, actually.
Sure. So when we hear the word in English, humility, it's about, you say, well, being humble, it's being kind of meek, and it's being self-effacing. And I'm going to share again, because the Mussar definition it's about taking up your proper place in the world. It's finding that balance between being really meek and really arrogant. And in certain situations, it's really appropriate for you to take charge and to say what needs to be done. And, that's humility and balance. If you're the pilot of a plane and the plane gets into trouble, it's not the time to take a vote. You need to make a call about what needs to happen. You need to occupy all the space and be a leader. But sometimes someone might be in a leadership position or CEO of the company, and they think that means that they're going to be, just tell everybody else what to do. They're not going to listen. And that's not, even though you're a leader, it doesn't mean you should take up all of the space. And I think really good leaders make room for other people to contribute. So That's kind of what humility is all about. And thank you for asking that, Carrie. And I think this is a good time to, oh, sure. Thank you for asking that. Someone asked if we could turn on live transcription, which I just did. So I hope, I've never used that before, but I hope I did that right. And I hope it's working correctly. All right, so this is a good segue to our breakout groups. And I'm going to open breakout rooms in a minute. And so what I'd like you to share, and again, these are going to be in groups of 2 or 3 people, maybe share a time where you felt insufficient to a task, like maybe you didn't feel comfortable taking up enough space. And how did you approach that? Did you stop or did you keep going? Or maybe share a time when you felt totally confident about something and then you later realized that you should have asked for help, that was a time where you needed to approach other people. I'm gonna oops, that didn't go right. So I'm going to stop the share.
Next one.
Then I'm going to copy this to the chat. And again, remember, this isn't about being judgmental. It's not about offering advice. It's just one person should share and the other person should listen deeply, and then you switch and the other person gets a chance to share. I'm gonna, let's see, create the breakout rooms. And let me take a peek here. Okay, so you should see something on your screen which says, please join breakout room. So just click on that. I would love to know, how were your breakout sessions, without sharing anything that your partner shared? Did you have any insights kind of about, that you would like to share with the group? Martin.
Yeah, Eileen and I had a great conversation, and I think the most important thing that she and I agreed that we talked about was not to be, she and I weren't concerned about having too much humility or not enough, because that'd be our own personal responsibilities of how we respond to what we catch ourselves doing. But what we thought was probably a good thing we talked about was, if we encountering someone where we think they're using too little humility, how to create a space that so that they can decide to say something more, because it could be something really important about what's going on between the two people. So that's what we shared. So
Oh, thank you. I love that, Martin. Yeah, making space for other people is really important. And we haven't heard from Stephanie yet. So Stephanie, hello.
Hi, I just wanted to say I had a really complimentary experience. And I didn't know, what we were going to talk about, but it just really uplifted my soul. And I think both of us did a really good job of allowing each other to say something. And it was just a really good experience. I just wanted to share that.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. Who else would like to comment? Yes, Joanne.
Well, started off that the other 2 people were kind of reticent to speak, but they opened up after a while. But I did talk about Moses being the most humble person, it says in the Bible, and how examples of when he did take advice from other people or was corrected, and he did listen, and maybe when the Jews got on his last nerve towards the end, and maybe he didn't have the moderating influence of his sister and brother anymore, he lost it. And even the greatest person, our great teacher, I mean, we can all lose it sometimes.
Yeah. And we all do lose it sometimes.
And we all do, right?
Yeah. No, thank you, Joanne. And that's one of the things I love about the Torah is that no one is perfect. Like, everyone has flaws, and even Moses. Thank you. Carrie, I saw your hand earlier. Did you want to share something?
Yeah, I can share. I actually have an experience with both of the points. I feel insufficient to a task right now. My granddaughter has been diagnosed with a processing disorder that I know very little about, and I need help in taking care of her and working with her, and I'm reading everything I can about it, and at some point the family's getting professional help, so I will be able to get it. But that's one area where, even with my background in psychology and teaching and all that, it's just not enough. I feel very incompetent there. And the other area is this year, I'm an avid gardener, very serious gardener. I am overwhelmed. I don't have the stamina, energy to do what I'm normally able to do. And, each year it gets a little harder, but this year is particularly hard. And I need to ask for help, even though I'm plowing ahead, trying to do it all on my own. I have to get help. I can't do it by myself anymore. And that's kind of hard to come to terms with.
Well, thank you, Carrie, for sharing both of those, and wishing your granddaughter and you and your family, sending strength and support, so that yes, thank you. Let's see, Karen.
There's a phrase some of you may be familiar with called leading from behind. And I think this speaks very well to place in space. It allows you to take up space when you really have something important to share. But when you lead from behind, you put your place not up front and center for all that you do. It also tends to be collaborative, but leading from behind makes me think of your place is not always in front, but the space you take up to guide, you have plenty of room to do that.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great insight, Karen. Absolutely. It's not always about being in the front, but we can find our right place. We can find the right space wherever that might be. Paul.
Yeah, I had a really good session with my partner, and we talked about how there can be traumatic times, traumatic experiences we have in life, which can cause us to really lose that sense of equilibrium in so many of these soul traits we talk about. And, humility being one of those, taking, when you feel threatened in a traumatic experience, how much is too much, how much is too little humility? If you really needed to, it's like it's new territory. And then after coming out of that, how do you come back from that need to be present and aware and on alert at all times if you feel like you've been threatened for a while? So you shared some thoughts about it and some experiences, and was a really good and very full conversation. So.
Well, thank you, Paul. Yeah, I mean, some really difficult and terrible things happen sometimes, and that's part of the world that we live in. And Mussar is something which we practice it. It's called a practice, and like practicing an instrument, you want to practice it before the concert, and so when that moment happens where there is some traumatic experience, that's going to be like one of those times where we lose it. That's an extraordinary situation. But having Mussar is one tool that can help kind of get through or recover. I also wanted to share, because I know some of us are new, and it's a great reminder for all of us that this is very much about a journey of self-discovery, and we're all here on this journey together. There's no right or wrong answers. There's no right or wrong place to be. But sometimes, I know that I have made some painful discoveries about myself. I'm like, wow, I really messed that up. And Mussar should never be like an excuse to get in a shame spiral. It's like when we've had one of those moments where we recognize it's like, oh man, I really, really stepped in the doo-doo that time. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right to kind of make that recognition. We all make mistakes, sometimes big mistakes, but we have an opportunity to grow, to improve. And part of this process is learning to be comfortable, with our own flaws. Does that make sense? Absolutely. Linda, were you raising your hand? Yeah. Hello. Nice to see you.
Thanks. Interesting that you should bring that up about music, because that's what I shared. There were 2 times when I was asked to play a solo on my recorder, and I knew the music and I had the music, but I couldn't produce a sound. And I was probably feeling really shamed at the time. But the lesson many years later is to realize that I don't do solos. And nobody I could ask for help because I was supposed to be it. But I seem to have forgiven myself, unless anybody in this group happened to be there and see me flop. But it was learning. I wish I could have learned it another way, but I know it now.
It's so beautiful, not everyone has to do a solo, and that's okay. Thank you for sharing that. Shelley.
Sorry. So great women. I'm so glad to have connected with Bonnie, and I think it's I can't pronounce the name. I'm sorry. I can't read your name properly. Bonnie had 2 great acronyms that she has to put on the chat, because I thought they were great. And yeah, I always say, whenever we have an obstacle, and if we speak out our obstacle, there's somebody that always will have an answer or some way to overcome the obstacle. So thank you, Bonnie, for your think and wait words. And I'll let her put that before speak. Thank you. And I have to get going. I have to go feed the homeless. My Thursday day things. That's why I haven't been on. So blessings to all of you, and be humble and be happy. And the sun always shines. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And what wonderful work. It's been great to see you. So Bonnie, this is your moment.
I shared these a couple of months ago, I think, and they came out of a 12-step program, and they've been very helpful for me. One is wait, which I need to write on the inside of my hand. Thank you very much. Why am I talking? And the other one is think, which comes easier to me, interestingly. Is it thoughtful, honest, intelligent, necessary, and kind? So I put that in the chat.
Oh,
And
that's good.
the weight part comes out of, I have 4 adult children, adult kids. I can't call them children, aged from 43 to 49. And they are not interested in my opinion. So and I'm going to see the 49-year-old this weekend, who lives in Ohio. And I think permanent marker may work. If somebody has another idea, please let me know. But I remember doing it with phone numbers before we had cell numbers. So maybe weight needs to go on my hand.
Well, you could always do a sticky note and put it on your mirror in the bathroom too, to remind you in the morning.
Will do so. The mirror's in the hotel, so.
Yeah, probably don't write in permanent marker on the mirror that, or no lipstick on the mirror or anything that might be frowned upon. I do not wish to be responsible for any material damages to your hotel room, but really your choice how you handle that. Thank you for sharing those. And it reminds me of something that happened. I'm trained as a scientist, and I went into the corporate world. And my wife did a few months later. And when she had her first customer meeting with a customer, someone said to her, "Keep your mouth shut, just listen." And unfortunately, and I said, boy, I wish they'd said that to me, because in the first customer meeting, there were about 10 people in there. And I made a couple of comments, which almost cost the company like $1 million deal, because I just did not understand what you say, what you don't say. It was not relevant. It was not germane, but it made them really anxious about something. So, there's really a time where you gotta
think.
You got to think, you got to wait. Before we close, I just wanted to ask, we did have a few new people, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of share how this experience has been, if you like, if you have any questions or comments. And if you don't choose to share or comment, that's okay, but I would certainly love to hear from you.
It was nice. I don't really want to say anything, but I'm just going through it and listening.
Thank you, Carrie. It's nice to see you.
I have something I'd like to say.
Sure.
I guess, for me, when I think about humility, I also come from 12-step background. The thing about humility that's helpful for me is when a lot of times I think I'm right at the time, but usually when time passes, then by the next day, I'll realize they were probably right, or I probably should not have said that or done that. And I think the ability to admit it when you're wrong and is, for me, a very important part of humility. And just today, I reached out to a bunch of friends that haven't been in contact with me during this pandemic and during this stressful time I'm going through. And I decided that instead of being resentful, I would reach out to each one individually, and I did. And I got some really nice responses back, because what I realized is that everybody has stuff they're going through. And this pandemic is affecting us all in very, very serious ways. And, it's about forgiveness and not letting, resentment take over. That there's a saying, resentment is like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die, and, I could just be full of resentment and hate. And that's, unfortunately, a place that I've been in because I'm going through a very traumatic divorce and and a bunch of other stuff. But my true nature is, I want to be happy, joyous, and free. And I have to just do the next right thing and not necessarily stand on ceremony and think, well, where were they the last month when I had surgery and I blah, 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 whatever. So I just wanted to share that.
Well, thank you, Sarah. And I'm so glad you reached out to them and that you got some great answers back. And that is also part of, humility is kind of stepping forward sometimes and not waiting for the other people. Let's see, Malia, I see your hand is up.
It was a nice experience. It was nice talking to people that I've had no connection with, but are on the same journey, and enlightening for some feedback that I wasn't expecting, which was quite supportive. It was as I said, it was a very nice experience, and I'm glad I stumbled onto this.
Well, I'm glad you did too. I'm so glad to see new faces and old faces. And Victoria, are you in the Philippines right now? Or are you back in the Bay Area at the moment? Where
I'm still in the Philippines.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. That's awesome.
Thank you. Greg, can I say something
Certainly.
regarding this topic, humility? I really appreciate it. It's really made me think deeply because actually I'm now entering into, as a graduate student at the Imperial College London, studying public health. And within the public health space, healing historical trauma is now within the purview of public health, which is really my main interest.
Wow.
And I'm really delving deep into the history of my nation, the Philippines, where we suffered a lot of historical trauma and still suffering. And what this humility thing is making me think about is maybe in about a century, we have not had the space to actually speak. And what does that mean for us? That's all I have to say.
Wow. Thank you so much. That is so powerful. And I wish you the best of luck in your studies.
Thank you.
So let's see. Becca.
Hi. I am just pulling over because I just wanted to say hi to everyone. I've been driving and I just found this experience so enriching that I just wanted to say hello to everyone and say thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you did. And as my father-in-law taught me, when someone says thank you, the proper answer is you're welcome. And so, but I also say thank you for kind of being here and being a part of this. And, this is really intended to be a co-creative experience. And whether you contribute by listening or contribute by speaking, whether you contribute by kind of acting outside of here, it's all part of it, and we can all contribute in our own way. And Susan, we're going to give you the last word, and then we're going to close.
Thank you. I had been a part of a small Mussar group that we created, some of the students created, and we found some of the previous Mussar instructions very stringent in some ways. And I just wanted to say I appreciate the vibe here because it's open and accepting, and I appreciate that. I just joined in the middle of the session, but thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Well, I hope we'll see you back again.
Thank you.
And that, of course, goes for everyone here and your friends, if they wish to join. So we're going to close the way we began with a short meditation. So once again, please close your eyes and take in a deep breath through the nose and hold. And exhale through the mouth and hold. And focus on the light filtering through your eyelids. This is your divine spark. It's that element of goodness. It's always there. It's always with you. We don't always see it, but we're seeing it right now. Feel the warmth and the love and the acceptance. And know that you are just as you were intended to be. And that's okay.